Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Wilfred. So in this video, I'd like to talk about two of my favorite action role-playing game or ARPGs, which is Diablo 4 as well as Green Dawn. So now why Green Dawn? Well, it has the latest patch 1.2 and I was curious about what this whole patch is about. And also Diablo 4 Season 2, I've completed it and I needed a break. I mean, I really want to do something different because D4 sometimes can feel more or less like a job. So I wanted to have something that give me a different perspective when I approach the ARPG. So I picked up Green Dawn, a game that I purchased quite a while ago, 2020s, although the game is already 7 years old. And but I have never got a chance to finish the game, so as to speak. So I thought it could be good to take this opportunity to do something about it. So I'm going to talk about some of these kind of like things or differences that kind of pop up in my mind when I play Green Dawn right after Diablo 4 Season 2. Now comparing the two games is difficult because one is a 7 years old game through a lot of maturity, and also it is well, some say it's a spiritual successor to Diablo 2, and also with the Titan Quest like maybe 20 years ago, there's a lot of foundation being built. As for Diablo 4, I think they try to reinvent themselves a couple of times. D2 was a great hit, then D3 was totally different. It has its own fan base as well. I love it. And then D4 trying to go back to D2 kind of way. So I don't think they really build up a lot of foundation on the whole Diablo franchise. They try to reinvent themselves. So yeah, so like I said, comparing the two is kind of hard. The D4 of course come with some of the best graphic they can see in ARPG scene. Okay, now so when I first went back to Green Dawn, which is a week or two, couple of weeks ago, there's a lot of differences, right? I mean, first of all, there are masteries, and you are talking about being able to build multi-class your characters, and that adds a lot of complexity or funds to the whole build diversity. And something that you don't really get it in Diablo franchise. You just like, if you pick druid, it's a druid. You pick necromancer, it's a necromancer. So for Green Dawn, I've picked necromancer and oathkeeper. So both combined together, they call it the oppressor. So yeah, so that's the first thing that I sort of like, okay, cool. There's a lot of things to explore in my mind already, not just a few classes, although there are eight masteries if you look at the 2 DLCs, but there are 36 combinations, right? So by right you could have 36 different kind of gameplay, although some of which will be kind of repetitive in a sense because you'll be using some similar skill across different build once you mix the 2 masteries. But yeah, I mean, it is a different compared to previous season when I mixed the previous character, when I mixed the necromancer with something else. It was more like a pet build, but Oculus I think. But this time around, mixing the two is in a more melee kind of feel, and it's kind of interesting. As you can see, there a little bit of whirlwind, like a barbarian in D3, a bit of charging as well, like the druid in D4, and then you can do some bone kind of harvest, which is very much like the Diablo kind of necromancer thing, and other things as well. The 2 pets coming with me to debuff and so on. So yeah, it is interesting, and I can't wait to see how far I can take my oppressor. They call it oppressor, which is oathkeeper plus the necromancer. So yeah, I'm interested. And also with the devotion, well, for those who may be not familiar with the Green Dawn, through one of the DLC, you could actually collect the devotion, the shrines from the devotion thing, and you could assign points to the Constellation. And it's kind of interesting because the Constellation, well, a lot of them are very meaningful passive, but also there are some game defining mechanism you can bind it to one of the existing skills to make it behave kind of a little bit differently. So I would compare that to the Paragon board, in a sense that it is a simplified version of the Paragon board, but in a good way, because in Paragon board you found that you had to do a lot of pathing. In between you pick up the attribute, but it's just attribute, right? I mean, it's not a big deal. They can put attribute anywhere in a game, be as just attribute, like the Green Dawn. You can put attribute to your character, or you collect gear to collect attribute. Doesn't have to be a Paragon kind of thing. And if you summarize if you just look at the Paragon in isolation, the 6 or 5 boards that you'll be using, more or less it's like a constellation in some sense, and there are some dependency for you to open up different constellation stars, or whatever they call it in Green Dawn. So I think the two are kind of similar, but it's a whole lot easier to say you want to tweak your build. And like what I did was initially I picked up Constellation randomly, but then after that I found that well, each constellation may have some prerequisite as well, so I have to plan myself on my strategy, how to take the shortest path to some of these very good kind of notes and so on. So yeah, I mean, I think that comparing to Paragon board, I like Constellation better. It's just for sake of easier to do, to respect as well. So it's a lot of diversity to it. If I look at the environment, and you can see on these video clips that you have here, you are kind of zoom out, and it's kind of good, because I found that in Diablo 4 everything tends to be too close to the environment, so you don't really see a lot happening on the map. Maybe, I don't know, the character looks really big in Diablo 4, almost like a role-playing game kind of character. But Grim Dawn is a lot more old school. You can see a lot of nice web design, and in fact I found that the Grim Dawn, the maps is a lot more colorful, and the artwork is a lot better as well. You see different texture, different mob types as you go into different zones, and kind of relate to the zone as well. Unlike Diablo, more or less all the places you've seen is a vast piece of open land, maybe some desert that just like sand dunes, and forest, and really dark. I mean, Diablo 4 want to make it a dark kind of like theme. I think Grim Dawn more or less I would say hit the right spots by I mean, the dungeons are still very dark, but outside the dungeon the daylight cycle is shorter, and you can see a lot more. And even if I have to explore as well, I found that it is very rewarding. And the exploration, I think that, let's talk about that. In D4, the exploration is kind of very limited. It's really about the first playthrough, getting all the outer of Lilith, and that is basically the exploration. You could do some side quests, but it's not mandatory to pick up all the side quests. You can do dungeons as well, and all the dungeons already on the map, so you can more or less kind of like pick up where you want to go, collect which aspect. So it's all laid out for you. But for Green Dawn, the great thing about Green Dawn is that it facilitates the whole exploration. You could just open up every single inch of the map. You may find a shrine, you may find a secret passage or secret kind of like cave somewhere. You'll find caves, and you'll find caves that with very dangerous affixes. And in general, there's treasure as well. I mean, the chests have meaningful treasure. Sometimes I do find some very nice things on a piece of rock, so we just turn it up, rock there, and there are like also story everywhere. So you what I found missing in, say, Diablo 4 is that you go into a dungeon, for example a nightmare dungeon or any dungeon, it is just a dungeon for mobs and a boss, and everything is very mechanical, more like work. But for Green Dawn, the interesting thing about it is that there is the lore behind the dungeon as well that they design, and it's up to you. If you don't have to read it if you don't want to, but you could pick up some of the notes from the ground, and then you can read the story as well. Some of the story could be quite moving and quite interesting. I think one of the more memorable one is how one of the priestess kind of like seduced one of the gods or what have you. So I thought it was quite interesting. I actually read through the 4 or 5 pages of story. The story writing is pretty good there, and that I found that is a lot more lacking in Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is just a mechanic, like you do objective 1, 2, 3, and then lead to the boss, and that's it for the dungeon. But I find that Green Dawn is more interesting, and it's also less linear as well. If you look at the story, unlike Diablo 4, they lead you to the storyline is quite linear. You go to one place, it's almost like a hub, and then they have a branch out to a few of them. But some of this, like Green Dawn kind of quests, will require you to progress. But sometimes you need to go back in some of the places you've been to, discover some secret or some reputation that you earn with other faction that they will hand you some new quests, and then you revisit some of these places again. So I find that it's interesting. It's not a bit less linear. It's still a checklist, don't get me wrong, but at least it's less linear than that. And also it's very old school, 3 difficulties level. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'll give you a shot. I think you have to play through it. Right now I'm at normal, but there are 2 other difficulties, and also veteran as well. In the past, when I played Green Dawn, I could play normal plus veterans, but I think after the update it get a little bit more difficult. And in general I feel that the Green Dawn is a lot harder than Diablo 4, and I think that is the main reason why I found that Diablo 4 is more like a chore work. Don't get me wrong, it's easy, it's good, but then if things are simple, straightforward, you tend to just treat it like 9 to 5, right? Because you just close one eye so you can watch YouTube while playing Diablo. You can do that totally. But for Green Dawn, it's kind of like there may be an elite lurking somewhere in the background that require a little bit of your attention. And sometimes when I lose my focus, when I'm tired, lose my focus and fail to dodge a few things, and it's gone. But I like Green Dawn in a way that it is not kind of one-shot mechanism. You can take some hit, but you just don't take too many of them at the same time. I think that is kind of fair, because sometimes we play games, we make mistakes. This is not Dark Souls, but you can recover from there, so that's cool. But if I lose my focus and make a few bad moves, then yeah, my character may get defeated, and I'll lose XP along the way as well. So it's more like a Path of Exile kind of punishment, or Diablo 2 kind of punishment. But in Diablo 4, there's no such punishment. You just pay the gold and repair your gear. So yeah, that is one. Loot filter, I like the Green Dawn's one. There's some basic loot filter, and in general I found that finding loot in Green Dawn is a lot more satisfying than Diablo 4. As I level up, I see that I actually look forward to all my loot, and to see if I can pick up something that will plug the gap of my build, be it as the DPS wise. Maybe for my build it's more like about vitality damage and so on, but I also need to pay attention to other things like resistance as well. So there are things I have to look out for. Each and every gear means something. So and I do find it frequent enough to be rewarding, right? So unlike Diablo 4, if you are fixated on the four affixes that you want, or you say I want 3 and then I can roll the 4th one, you keep looking at the whole gameplay. Like you can go out to play one game, and when you come back from a dungeon, very likely that everything is just junk. But for Green Dawn, it's likely that you'll pick up something. Even if you don't, there are some components that you can pick up to enhance your gear. So that's always very rewarding when it comes to the Green Dawn. And also the number of affixes is crazy in Green Dawn. It's probably one of the games that I found it has the most number of affixes. Now, not all affixes relevant to you, and to be fair to them, is that there are 8 masteries with 36 combinations. So that itself is a huge number of variety there. So I can't get it that they probably need to add a lot more affixes to make it meaningful to the people who farm gear, because it's very hard to farm that piece of gear that is for your 1 out of 36 kind of mastery combination. So I find it interesting. So far, no complaint on the whole gearing, the itemization yet. Maybe I need to see a little bit more to see how how the end game is like. But so far, as someone who level, I find it is a lot more enjoyable than Diablo 4. Just a lot more. I like progression or meaningful progression. So I do see the skill point as well as the constellation as well as a good combination take me through level 100 rather than say Diablo you up to 50 then you stop progressing on your skill, you have to focus on your Paragon. So why not do the two things at the same time, constellation and the skill point, right? So yep, that's mainly my thought on the itemization. And the just a little bit of the game duration. I think both games also require a time commitment to reach a level 100, although D4 make it a bit easier to get there. I have no idea how hard it is for Grim Dawn, but so far it seems the pace is kind of slower than other ARPG that I play, such as the Warhammer Inquisitor Martyr or the Diablo 3. So I'll have to see how it's going to compare. But I suspect the two is going to be quite different because after all, Grim Dawn is the spiritual successor of Diablo 2, and Diablo 2 getting to the end level isn't that easy. And then and I found that there's quite a number of game modes as well that is more for end game. I've managed to. It's kind of interesting. There are multiple acts. I think there are like maybe 5 acts on the normal, then on the base game, then 2 extra for the first expansion, and the second expansion get another act. I finished the Act 1 of the base game, then I jump into the Forgotten Gods, and I'm among the 1 out of 10 people who has completed the Forgotten Realm, who own the game, I think. And so it's interesting. Now that I've done I couldn't finish the last act because the level of the mobs getting a bit higher, so I have to go back to doing Act 2, and then I jump back to the Forgotten God as well. It's kind of interesting, just break the monotony of linear gaming, right? So you don't have to go linearly to get all these things, and I needed all these break as well. So like I said, there's no seasons for Grim Dawn, while the Diablo 4 will always be keeping me interested on the different seasons and mechanic. Both games would require me to research ahead, although it's probably not as heavy as Grim Dawn is not as heavy as Diablo 4, because there are so many build variety there. Even if you like to deviate from it, I don't think it's going to be a game breaker. Unlike Diablo 4, if you deviate from the top few tiers, I think it's going to be really tough for you to progress. So and I do need to rely on internet to play Grim Dawn as well, especially so there's a lot of hidden secret. If you have the time to discover, I think it's all good. But sometimes I'm a little bit impatient and I need to check the internet. And you have to manually track all the devotion points as well to complete the constellation. And I find it's a little bit of pain, but I guess it's more like old school. If you remember back in the days of Mass Effect 1, all of us will have to manually track our mission progress and to see if we managed to get all the bonuses or not. So that's true. I certainly do not miss the timer mechanism in Diablo 4. What I mean by that is that Legion is coming up in 5 minutes, or world boss is spawning in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, or Helltide is ending in 15 minutes or so on. So I really feel great not to be just being rushed to by the timer, because I find it a little bit more stressful. I like to just take my time. Sometimes if I want to go for heavy gaming, I could, but if I want to just take it easy, why not, right? But in Diablo 4 it's a little bit difficult because everything is so optimized. You have to find here the most optimized way. And certainly I do not miss the MMO aspect of D4. I found that it's very nice and quiet, just do my own thing in Grim Dawn, and certainly I'm having a great time. So like I said, both games I enjoy, and I would like to share with you my thoughts on the two games when I, especially coming at the back of Season 2 Diablo 4, right into patch 1.2 of Grim Dawn. So that's my observation. Can you relate to that? And what's your view on the two games? All right, keen to hear from you. Drop me a note at the comment below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.